Okay, welcome everyone to the webinar for RSC First Year Schools, Redesigning School Counseling. The focus on this presentation, is to prepare for the very first meeting of your advisory council. We know that during the month of August, you're all busy recruiting your advisory council members, and I trust that went well. We usually have very good reports from schools when they're doing that. And so now we're ready to prepare for that first meeting, which is to introduce the meeting where you're going to introduce your council members to RSC and to school counseling. So my name is Sue Reynolds. I'm the president of the American Student Achievement Institute, and it is a pleasure, as always, to be with you on this webinar. Oops. So we do have a very special announcement today. I'm really pleased to introduce to you Debbie Howell. Debbie is a strategic planning specialist on our staff, and she will be providing support for RSC schools this year. This is the first time that we've been able to have a person on staff whose part of her responsibilities is to support the RSC schools. So we're just really, really happy to have her here. And I'm just noticing, Debbie, if you want to, well, let's introduce you first, and then I'm just noticing that Melissa's saying that she's not able to hear on her computer, so that's unusual. I guess I can just type in a response, can't I? Let us just pause real quickly to do that. You should be able to hear on your computer. So click the audio tab and make sure, see, that mic and speakers is checked. Otherwise, call on the phone. Oh, she can hear us. Great. Okay. So we usually do those technology checks before we start, but we're glad that you can hear us now. Wonderful. Okay, so we are introducing Debbie Howell, who I was just saying is our strategic planning specialist who is going to be working with the RSC schools. She will be available to review your work as well as to take your on-call phone calls and your emails. So we're just really pleased that that's all going to work out. The other thing that that's going to allow us to do is, instead of having you work all year and then turning everything in June, this year, because of Debbie's being able to help with this, we will be able to review your work each month. So every month you'll submit the parts of the process that you worked on that month. So right now we can have you submit your advisory council roster. And then Debbie will review it against the rubric that we provide for you, and she'll just give you a thumbs up or a please revise. So if everything's looking fine, the review will say meets criteria, and on you go. If there's something we need you to revise because you're not either compliant with the requirements for the Indiana Gold Star School Counseling Award or the ASCA Ramp Award, then Debbie will give you some feedback and ask you to do a revision. So we think that monitoring your work each month is going to enable us to provide better tech support for you, but it will also, we think, ensure that your work is of higher quality. One of the things that we found is we all know how busy school counselors get, and when the work was all coming in at the end of the year, it really, we think the quality of the work was maybe a little lacking because people were just rushing to get everything done at the end. So this way you'll be able to kind of just work steady as you go all year. You'll get feedback from us every month, written feedback, and we just think that will really help with the whole process. So Debbie, you want to just take a minute and introduce yourself and just kind of tell a little bit about your background?
Sure. Good afternoon. My name is Debbie Howell, and I want to let you all know that I've been in coaching or mentoring since about 1999. I first started working at the not the John Jay Center, but I first when I first started working in mentoring and coaching, it was as an executive director of the Pregnancy Care Center in Jay County. So I worked with staff, but I also worked with girls who were making important decisions for their lives. And then I went on to decided I wanted to go back to college, so I graduated from Indiana Wesleyan. But during that transition, I worked as a fitness technician. Then I moved on to a substitute teacher. Did my graduation with Indiana Wesleyan. I worked as a student services advisor for the John Jay Center in Portland. I worked with Indiana Wesleyan and Ivy Tech to advise students into their programs along with workforce development programs. With that, I was an adjunct instructor for Ivy Tech Community College, and then I moved on to working with Ivy Tech as a part-time registration person, and then moved into my strategic planning specialist role with American Student Achievement Institute. So right now I look forward to, in that same role, working with the schools with RSC.
Very good. So, so I think we're so lucky to have Debbie be able to participate in this initiative, because she really is an expert in data-driven change. She knows vision to action, frontwards and backwards. She understands goal setting and root cause analysis and developing strategies. So really the expertise that she's bringing to the table is about the strategic planning process that you're using. But in addition to that, as you heard, she has some background in helping folks with personal social issues, as well as helping folks with academic and career planning. So I think she brings just a variety of skill sets to the table, but the most important one for your work is that her expertise in strategic planning. She'll be able to really help you think about goal setting and root cause analysis and activities and all the different steps of the process. So really glad to have her here. So we'll talk a little bit more about Debbie's role at the end as we're talking about your submissions for this month. But let's move forward. So, well, if I could get the screens to move, there we go. So here's today's agenda. What we'll be doing is a quick review of the RSC beliefs in the RSC process. And then we'll be looking at getting ready for that first meeting with your advisory council. So we'll walk through the meeting, we'll talk about the submissions, we'll look at the online manual page and the process page. When we leave today, when we finish this webinar, you should know exactly what you need to do in order to facilitate this first meeting with your advisory council. And I think you'll be pleased because we'll give you everything that you need. We've tried to do all the grunt work so that you don't have to start from scratch. You've got templates and documents to start with. So, okay, quick review. Just a reminder that the foundational belief of RSC is that school counseling programs help students make sound choices in areas that impact academic success. So we believe that school counseling is all about helping kids make good choices, social personal choices, academic, career choices, and then specifically in choices that are going to drive up student achievement. We are counselors, but we are specific school counselors, and our job is to apply our counseling skills and our guidance skills so that students become better learners. So that's kind of our foundational belief. This is just another way of saying the same thing. We believe that sound guidance and counseling programs help kids make good choices, and that as a result of that, academic achievement goes up. When we are designing our school counseling program this year, we're going to kind of just work this pyramid backwards. We're going to start with the goals, the achievement goals that are in your school improvement plan, and then we'll say, okay, for our school to reach those goals, what are the choices that our kids need to make? And once we know what choices we want kids to make, things like turning in their homework, being assertive rather than aggressive, not bullying, doing campus visits, submitting a FAFSA. Once we know what choices we want kids to make, then we'll design the guidance and counseling program to enable kids to make those choices. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. And then specifically month by month, here's what we're doing. So last spring, we got ready. You put together your steering team, you collected some data, and then most recently you invited people to be part of your advisory council. So we are ready now to start having discussions. All the pieces are placed. We got the people in place, we got the organizational structure, we got the data, we're ready. So what we're doing now is in September, so in the coming month, you'll have that first meeting with your advisory council. All of our meetings are set up to be 2-hour discussions. It is possible, though, to separate them into 2 one-hour discussions. But as we've talked with community folks, and I've done this with hundreds of schools, what we hear is that community folks would rather come in for one longer meeting than a couple of shorter meetings. Okay, so today's meeting, or this month's meeting, is all about that, introducing your advisory council to this whole process in school counseling. Then next month, you'll get together with your advisory council for the second meeting. And at that meeting, you'll talk about, what's our dream for kids as a community? What do we want our students to be able to achieve? What are our ideal adult practices that are going to make that likely to happen? What's the ideal achievement data? We're just talking like pie-in-the-sky dreams. If you're a Malcolm Baldrige fan, this is the step where we get all the arrows going in the same direction. Everybody's headed towards the same place. It's where we're talking about that common dream that we have as a community. So that's the October discussion. Then in November, we'll say, okay, if we're going to make it towards that dream, we're going to start moving, then what are the choices that kids need to make? So in November, we will brainstorm all the gazillion choices that kids need to make the first year that they come into your school, the second year that they are in your school, the third year, all of the things that they have to do right, all the choices that they have to do right in order to be a successful learner in your school and to prepare for success in whatever comes after your school. So for most schools, that could be 60 or 70 different choices that kids have to make. And so your program will have 60 or 70 goals, because your program wants to help kids make all of those good choices. So that's what we'll do in November. We'll identify the choices that we want kids to make. Those are your goals. Then in December, we'll come back to your advisory council and we'll say, remember all those goals that we had, 60 to 70? Choices we want kids to make? Well, here's the deal. Our counselors don't have the time to address all 60 or 70 of those goals. And that's when you'll come back with your time use logs, and you'll be able to say to your council, our counselors only spend 10% of their time with kids and parents, or 50 or 60%. But if we could get more time, if we had more resources, we could tackle more of those choices. So the first part of this discussion is in expanding resources. How can we get the counselors more time? People will want to get you more time because they're seeing all those choices that kids need to make. And they know if they can get you time, you can help with those things. So great, vibrant discussion in there. Then we'll say, okay, if we can get that much time, so we're going to add new staff, or teachers are going to help take these responsibilities, or all the non-program things that we've been doing, somebody else will do those. If somehow we're getting more time, more money, more funding, resources, now let's realistically say, okay, of those 60 or 70 choices, how many realistically can we really help kids nail next year, every kid in the building? It may just be one of those goals we're going to focus on, maybe two. So those are your priority goals. It's the things that you are really, really going to work on and help every student in the building make that choice. So we'll do that in December, January. And then second semester, we'll know what the choices are, and then we'll come back and we'll say, well, why aren't kids making those choices? So it may be a couple things. Maybe the kids don't have knowledge that they need to make that choice. Maybe kids aren't visiting apprenticeship programs as part of their post-secondary exploration because they have no idea what an apprenticeship program is or where to find one. So, so we're going to look at what knowledge do the kids have. We're also going to look at what personal social issues might be getting in the way of good decision making. So, there may be bullying going on, or depression, or stress, or whatever. So we'll see, are there any personal social issues that might be getting in the way of making those good choices? And then finally, we're also going to look at, are we giving kids the opportunity to make those choices? Maybe we want kids to choose to take a career interest inventory, but we never give them the opportunity to do that. So we'll look at, in this step in February, we're going to bring in a ton of data to help you see, what do kids know, what personal social issues are getting in the way, and what opportunities are we giving or not giving kids. That data will help you then determine what's getting in the way of those priority goals. And when you move to the next step into activities, the activities will be designed to hit those root causes, to hit the things that are getting in the way. So they'll be very, very focused activities, focused on hitting those root causes, knowing if we can address those root causes, then kids will start making better choices. Okay, so that is the 6th and final meeting with your advisory council. That will happen in March. And then in April and May, the counselors will start the preparation of implementing this new program, or this revised program. So you'll be writing guidance lessons, you'll come up with a program calendar, individual counselor calendars, you'll create a budget, you'll go find money if you need to seek funding for some of your activities. So the last step is to get ready, do all the preparation, so that when the next school year starts, you're hitting the ground running. Okay, so that's the process in a nutshell. And again, we're on that very first step with the very first meeting with your advisory council, which is the introduction. So if you have questions, just kind of jump in here, interrupt, type them in, and we can take those. But I'm not seeing any questions. I don't think. Nope. So let's go on. Okay, so this month we're talking about facilitating that first advisory council meeting. I always get so pumped up when I hear from you guys next time, because those first meetings usually go really, really well. So I think there's two things that I'd like to look at with you to help you understand the resources that we're providing, and then we'll also walk through this meeting. So I'm going to go to the online system, and let's see here, and I'm logged in as one of our first year schools. Okay, so when you log in, you actually will come to a page that looks like this. And we have talked about in the past that whenever you get lost, you would go to the Process tab. So if I'm lost and I don't know what to do, it's a week from now, I can't remember what happened in the webinar, I'm going to hit that Process page. I'm going to scroll down to the September activities. Here they are. The first thing I can do is watch the webcast, which is what we are recording right now. So to watch this later, you would just click on this Tools icon. Then I'm going to conduct Advisory Council Meeting 1. So to get the resources for that, I can come over here and just click the icon in the manual column. So I'm going to click that, and you'll see that that is taking me to the steering team manual, and I'm going to scroll down to the resources for meeting 1. So there are, in every time we have a meeting, we're going to give you 2 sets of resources. One set are the handouts that you'll distribute at the meeting. The other set is a set of tools to help the facilitator get ready for and prepare for the meeting and everything that you need. So just a kind of a heads up, all of our documents can be edited. We don't care if you change something. So if in one of the PowerPoint presentations you don't like a slide, reword it or leave it out. It's also okay with us. We need to leave the copyright information on the bottom, but if you want to take our name off of something and put the name of your school in it instead, that is fine with us. I think the more you can plaster your school's name on these materials, the better it is. It makes it look, it shows how prepared you are. So, okay, so this cover page, I'm just going to open up each of these very quickly so we can kind of just give you a heads up. So the cover page, here's what it looks like. And again, this is where you can take our name off of this stuff and put it on. So this is just a cover page for your handouts. You don't have to use it if you don't want to. You can add your school's name on, whatever. So just wanted to show you that that is available. Then let's go back to the next resource. This is the suggested agenda. So we'll give you one of these for each of your meetings. And if I open this, you can see that for this agenda, we're recommending that you do a welcome, introductions, and warm-up. Then you're going to go over what is redesigning school counseling, so foundational beliefs, activities, accountability. The PowerPoint will all cover all that. Then take a break, and then we're continuing with the RSC intro, talking about organizational structure, the design process, and the portfolio that you'll be putting together this year, and then the recognition. So then we want to do some activities. Oops, where did that go? There we go. Then we want to do some activities. So we'll talk with your council about what norms you want to govern your meetings, like don't interrupt each other, put kids first, show up on time, stay on agenda, no sidebar conversations, that kind of stuff. And then finally, the last activity that we're going to do is to get the council's input on what they believe the benefits of school counseling are. So, we're starting out thinking with the real positives. One of the things we're trying to establish at this meeting with this agenda is that while we're there to kind of talk to people about what we're doing as school counselors, we are mainly at these meetings to listen. And so we want to end up with with the discussion where we are listening, and everything that they say is going to end up being part of your benefit statement that is part of your portfolio. So, okay, so that's the agenda. One other thing I wanted to point out is that on the left here, where it says time, this is where you would actually type in a time. So if your meeting's starting at 6 o'clock, you'd write 6 o'clock here. This first part we estimate is going to take 20 minutes to do. So if this is 6, then this time would be 6:20. And if after you get all those times in, it should give you a 2-hour meeting. If you are doing 2 1-hour meetings, you would just stop the first meeting here at the break and then start the second meeting with the content after the break. Okay, so let's go back to the handouts. We've given you a template for an advisory council roster. This actually is also part of the warm-up. And we think it's good for your advisory council members to start knowing each other and maybe developing the friendships or whatever. So we think it's important to have a roster. So on this roster ahead of time, you would have put in everybody's names, their phone number, and their email, so everybody can contact each other between meetings if they want to. You will have left blank the perspective. Now, we know, why you invited each person to be on the council. This was a Hispanic person. This was the parent of a free and reduced lunch student. This was a teacher. This was a 3rd grade student, or whatever their perspective is. However, we don't want to be, I don't think, so bold as to say to everybody, well, Jane Doe, we picked her to be on the council because she's low income, she's free and reduced, her kids are free and reduced, so, or he's Hispanic. So we know why, what we were looking for. But as part of the warm-up, what we're going to do, what we suggest you do, is to ask each person what unique perspective might they bring to the table. So, John can say, well, I'm part of the Hispanic community. I bring that perspective to the table. Or somebody else could say, I'm an 8th grade parent, or whatever. So what unique perspective do they bring to the table? What we're doing with this activity is, one, we're pointing out to everybody that you have a very broad range of perspectives at the table. That's really powerful. And the other thing, and this is really important, is that we want John to know that if John doesn't show up at the next meeting, the Hispanic voice is not represented. So, or if your 3rd grade parent doesn't show up, there's no 3rd grade voice at that table. So, so this is helping folks to understand that they're not only representing their own opinions, but they're representing a group of perspectives that they hold in common with other people. So very important. It's a great part of the warm-up. Everybody's introducing themselves, and then they're kind of thinking about, what do I bring to the table, what perspective. Okay, go back to the manual. This is the presentation. I'll talk about that in a second. This is just the diagram of the vision action process that we've been looking at. And then this is a template where you can just drop in your meeting dates for the entire year. And I would very strongly recommend you set your dates for the whole year, get them on everybody's calendars right now so that everybody can work their other meetings and commitments around your meetings. So, okay. So let's look at the presentation. So in the presentation, all the presentations are PowerPoints. So I'm going to open that. And here it comes. There we go. So one of the things I want to point out is that each of the slides are scripted or may have notes in them. So like on the first slide here, the note says, place the slide on the screen as people are entering the room. It's kind of a no-brainer, but if I go to the next one, script. Let's begin by answering the question, what is school counseling? This will give a common understanding. So we're doing introductions. What perspective do you bring to the table? Here's the agenda. So all these slides are scripted, and I see there's a couple scripts in here I need to update. I will do that as soon as we finish the webinar. So, okay. So I'm just going to run through this, walk through it as though you are the Advisory Council and I'm facilitating the meeting. So, okay. So first thing is, let's do introductions. What perspective do you bring to the table? Everybody's introducing themselves. Then I'm talking about the agenda. We're going to do a quick school counseling intro, so everybody kind of is on the same page about what is school counseling. Then we're going to kind of look at this year, what's our organizational structure, program design. We're going to end up with a portfolio. We'll talk about that a little bit. And then we've got our awards that we're recognition that we're seeking. So, and then finally, we'll do a discussion where we'll ask you, based on everything you've learned tonight or this afternoon, what do you believe the benefits of school counseling are? Okay, so then we're starting in with kind of the introduction. So foundational beliefs, and that RSC school counseling, we believe the purpose is to enable all students to prepare for academic success at the next level, responsible citizenry, and employment in the global economy. So that's what we're trying to do in the design of this program. And then school counseling impact, we've talked about this, that school counseling helps kids make better choices than in areas that impact academic success. There's the pyramid, and so you can talk about each level of the pyramid. And then another concept that I think that it's important that your council understand is that school counseling is for everyone. So school counseling is for every student. And you might point out on this slide that in a traditional school counseling program, not all kids get services. It tends to be the kids that will self-report or ask for a pass because they want to talk to their counselor, or it's a kid that's got an issue with the teacher and the teacher has referred them. So it's self-referred or teacher-referred, or it's kids whose parents have said, go talk to that counselor about, the PSAT or whatever. So, but there's a lot of kids that don't self-refer, don't have parents that refer them, don't have teachers that refer them, that in a kind of a traditional school counseling program, they not all kids get services. So in the RSC model, it's all kids get services. It's just like we don't choose when we're teaching math. We don't teach math just to some kids who come in and say, you know, who self-refer, I need a math lesson today. It's all kids. So same thing with guidance and counseling, that we're working with all kids. So on this screen, we're introducing vocabulary. So we're telling folks that there's 4 different types of legitimate school counseling activities, and then we're going to define them. So activity type guidance, there's the definition. We've gone over this with you guys before, so I won't, you know, spend a lot of time on each of these slides, but big thing on this slide is that it's not just school counselors that provide guidance. It's also teachers and parents and community members. You know, everybody, a lot of people provide guidance for kids. We're starting on this slide to introduce that guidance can be a curriculum just like math. And here are some standards that in academic development, all 5th graders will demonstrate learning skills. Career development, all 5th graders will analyze a career interest inventory. Personal social, all 5th graders will demonstrate active listening. So when I present this slide to non-school counselors, I tend to describe it as, how I'll explain it is I'll say, just like math has different subjects, algebra, geometry, guidance has different subjects too. Our subjects are academic development, career development, and personal social development. When I call those areas subjects rather than domains, non-counselors tend to get it a little bit more. And then I'll say within our subjects, we have different things, different knowledge or skills that we want kids to learn, just like in math. And so, you know, then I'll go over a couple of those. So, okay, and also we want folks to realize that counselors have lesson plans, just like math or English teachers. You know, that kind of just works the same way. Then, in terms of where does the instruction happen in guidance, where are those subjects taught? Some of it can be one-on-one, but if it's one-on-one, it's with every single student in the building or every single 5th grader. So if it's individual, it's not just hit and miss. Every single kid is getting an individual appointment where we're teaching some things. Or it could be classroom guidance, where we've got a classroom where we're teaching something to 20 or 30 kids all at the same time. So then also in terms of the guidance lesson providers, it can be school counselors, but it might be that a school has a teacher advisor program and the guidance lessons are being taught by teachers. Or maybe there's a community mentor program where every student in your building has a mentor. And so the mentors are teaching the guidance curriculum. It could also be part of the classroom teacher's responsibility. For example, when math teachers are teaching kids how to calculate an average, they might apply that to calculating a GPA, and then they can check off one of the guidance standards that students understand how to calculate a GPA. So there's lots of different people that can provide guidance lessons in the RSC model. Okay, and then a second activity type is counseling. So we're defining it. Keywords on this slide that I really try to emphasize when I'm presenting this is that counseling activities help some students. And I point out that in a typical school, about 1 in 5 students will report that they have a personal or social issue that's interfering with learning. So counseling is not for all kids. It's for kids who need it and seek it, and so it's for some kids. Counseling is also not provided by just anybody. Counseling services, we believe, need to be provided by a licensed professional that has a foundational belief and background, who has had supervised experience before becoming licensed. So we believe that counseling activities should only be provided by licensed school counselors, social workers, and psychs. Okay, so then you're talking with non-educators in your advisory council, maybe some people from economic development or parents, maybe from your local mental health association. But for folks that don't work with kids a lot, that are maybe on your council, we really want them to understand that kids have a lot of issues that they're bringing to the school that interfere with learning. So anxiety, eating disorders, they may be teen parents, They may be addressing, dealing with an abuse situation. Maybe they're hungry because they're coming from a very poor family. So we want folks to understand as they're designing the school counseling program that there are personal social things that get in the way of school of achievement, as well as academic and career things. So in the RSC model, as you design this, you'll put together a student assistance team. Their job is to receive personal social referrals, review cases, recommend interventions, and then the follow-up. The team members in a student assistance team, at least one of them needs to be we believe needs to be a licensed student assistance professional, and then trained teachers and trained administrators. So, and that training has to do with, confidentiality and different types of interventions and that type of stuff. So we'll have a student assistance team, and then just like guidance, we believe that student assistance can be, different levels of student assistance can be provided by different types of folks. So if we have some really level 1 issues that can be solved with reassigning a seat in the classroom or doing a homework log, that's something that someone with really virtually no training can provide. So parents and teachers can provide that type of intervention. If maybe the intervention that's needed is not counseling, but just friendly listening, information sharing, peer helpers, teacher advisors, community mentors can participate in level 2 student assistance. But in level 3, where there's some really significant issues that are going on, where the student really does need counseling, or somebody needs to make a decision about doing a referral, the provider on those types of interventions we think should be licensed professionals. So, but again, not all interventions have to be addressed by a school counselor. It could be friendly listening, peer helper, teacher advisor, or just something as simple as changing a seat assignment. So, okay. So third type of activity is advocacy. And again, we've defined what that is before, so I'll just kind of skip over these slides. We can advocate for groups of students or individual students. And then the fourth and final type of legitimate use of counselor time is program management. So we've defined those before. They're behind-the-scenes things necessary for the school counseling. Notice how I emphasize the word counseling there. Counseling program to run smoothly and efficiently. Here's some different types of management tasks that counselors have to do for their program. Program development, which is what we're doing right now with the Advisory Council. Personal development skills, fine-tuning skills that counselors have. Networking, and then evaluating the school counseling program, which is also what we're going to do as part of RSC. So it's legitimate use of counselors' time to do these things. Counselors are not face-to-face with parents and students while they're doing them, but they have to do them in order for their program to run efficiently. Then the additional activity, which is actually not part of school counseling, but it's something that some counselors spend a lot of time on, are activities that we call non-program activities. So non-program activities, we're telling everybody, these are activities that are not helping kids master or learn the guidance standards, and they're not helping kids overcome a personal or social problem that's interfering with learning. So here are things that a lot of school counselors are asked to do that really have nothing to do with guidance and nothing to do with counseling. So state testing, calculating grade point averages, organizing graduation, master scheduling or scheduling teacher time, substitute teaching. So, and you might want to tell folks, right now our counselors are doing a study. Every day we're logging our time so that later we'll be able to talk with you about how much time we're spending in each of these 5 areas. So, and then when we share that with you, we'll have a discussion with you after we have all that data about about how we want to balance our programs. Do we want to spend 100% of our time on guidance or 100% of our time on counseling? That will be a discussion in a future meeting that we have with you. So we'll look at the targets, and then we'll look at what it actually is, and then we'll figure out where we need to adjust. Okay, so we want to say a little bit then with your council about accountability. So In terms of that pyramid again, there is accountability at in all four parts. On the bottom part, we want to be looking at the percentage of students who have mastered guidance indicators, targeted guidance indicators. In the bottom right, the percentage of students who would attain a personal goal that they've set in personal social counseling. In the middle there, we want to look at the percentage of students who are making a targeted choice. And then finally, the percentage of students who have reached the targeted academic goals that are in our school improvement plan. But the one in the middle is red because that's the one that as a school counseling program we really want to focus on. Does our school counseling program help kids make good choices in targeted areas? That's the big question. So in terms of our school counseling program accountability, that's what we're going to be looking at. We'll identify targeted choices that we want kids to make. We'll have baseline data. We'll implement the program that we all together designed this year. And then we'll look at follow-up data to see if the program made a difference. Okay, so how do we know if kids make good choices? There's lots of different things that we can look at, but the most time-efficient way is to just ask the kids. So last spring, we're sharing with the council, last spring we did our baseline study, and we asked the kids, have you taken a career interest inventory? Have you written a high school course plan? Have you submitted a FAFSA? These are typical high school things. So, you want to tell people if you're in elementary school, ours, are a little bit different than this. And then the kids just said yes, don't know, or no. And, so we'll kind of look at how many said yes, and we'll look at areas where maybe kids are telling us they're not making good choices. The other thing that we'll look at is just some simple item counts. So, for example, if one of the choices we want kids to make is to do a career interest inventory, we'll actually count, in our log that we've kept with meeting with kids and developing career interest inventories, we'll just count how many actually have one. If the choice we want kids to do is to have a high school course plan, we'll just get out the file drawer and see how many high school course plans we have for our kids. So there's other things that we'll count in addition to looking at the survey data. We'll have item count data. Okay, so that's kind of the introduction. We'll go to a break. We come back from break. And now we're talking specifically about RSC. So it's been kind of broad. This is school counseling. Now let's look specifically at RSC. So we're letting folks know we have a steering team. It's me and Jan and Tom. And our job is to facilitate 6 meetings, 6 discussions with you all. And then based on what you tell us in these discussions, we'll develop these products. So we'll be developing a vision statement, goals. Today we're going to come up with a benefit statement based on what you tell us about what you think the benefits of school counseling are. So that's our job, is to facilitate the meetings and then to listen, to take your input, and to create a part of the program with that input. We are the worker bees, which is why that little bee's there. So in between meetings, you're not going to have to do anything, but in between meetings, we'll be doing those tasks. Then you are the advisory council. So your job is to attend 6 meetings, to provide input on program design, provide feedback on things after we start implementing, and then eventually, as you feel comfortable, to serve as ambassadors for our program. You are not worker bees, you are thinker bees. So you'll come to the meeting, you'll give us all of your thoughts, and then that's it. You'll go home and nothing more is expected until you come back for the next meeting. Okay, RSC Implementers, we talked about this a little bit already, can be parents, educators, all different kinds of educators, and can also be community organizations. Maybe our local Chamber of Commerce can come in and do a lesson on interviewing skills. So lots of different types of implementers. In terms of the process, we're going to start out designing by looking at, okay, what's our school's achievement goals? Then we're going to say, what choices do kids need to make in order for our school to reach those goals? And then finally, what specific guidance activities and counseling activities do we need to put in place to help kids make those choices? Okay, so this is the process. We've already gotten ready by putting together the organizational structure. We've already collected our baseline data. this is where we are right now. We're meeting to introduce all of this to you. Then in October, as a council, you'll work on giving us your input in terms of what our vision should be. In November, we'll set program goals. In December and January, we'll look at expanding the resources that we have for school counselors, especially time, and then we'll narrow down our goals to become priority goals. In February, we'll look at root causes. Why aren't kids making the choices we want them to make? And then in March, we'll talk with you about what activities should be part of the school counseling program based on the whole process that we've done up till then. That's the last meeting of the Advisory Council in March, and then after March, the counselors, based on all of your input and everything that we've designed this year, will start to prepare to implement the program that you've helped us come up with. Okay, so as we're doing this work, we will be creating a school counseling program portfolio. So it's an online portfolio that we're developing with this system that we have called Redesigning School Counseling. And at the end of all of this work, we'll be able to take that program and submit it to our national association, the American School Counselor Association, and for the National Ramp Award. And I would share with you, Council, that is a big deal. Most states only have 1 or 2 ramp schools in their states. In Indiana, we have 100-some, but we are way out ahead. I mean, there's only like 7 states that have more than 10. So this is a big deal nationally to be named as a ramp school. Also, you can help them understand that you'll be applying for the Indiana Gold Star School Counseling Award that is provided by the Indiana Department of Education. And your school will be able to use that Gold Star School Counseling Award logo to put on your school's website or your letterhead or your business cards or whatever. But it shows that you have a data-driven program, that your activities are targeted, that you're focused on helping kids make good choices. That kind of stamp of approval from the Department of Ed, I also think, is huge. It really shows a sound school counseling program. Okay, so now we've been talking a lot, so you're sharing with your council. We normally won't talk this much. Usually we're going to be in listening mode, and we're going to start that right now. So the first question is, what norms do we, as we're having discussions this year, what norms do we want to demonstrate or to use? And you can give some examples like showing up on time, not interrupting each other, putting kids first. How do we want to treat each other during these meetings? So a little bit of a brainstorm on that. There is a template that you could make into a poster or just use flip chart paper and write down things that people are saying. I would definitely let people see you writing them down because then they know that you were listening. Another thing you could do here is just have somebody else from your steering team actually type in the group norms as people are saying them and just put it right up on the screen. A little trick that we didn't learn until about a year ago is that after everything's up on the flip chart paper or up on the screen, just get out your iPhone and take a picture of it, and then you can send that to everybody so you don't have to retype it or anything. You just take a picture of their work and send it out. So, okay. So we want to do a consensus check, and the question is always, can you live with these? They don't have to love them. Can they live with them? And can they support them publicly? So if somebody says, oh, one of your group norms is this, could you say, yeah, that's because. So this is usually a very easy discussion. I don't think you'll have any trouble with this. This is also an easy discussion. So the first actual work you're doing is you're asking the council to help you brainstorm what are the benefits of school counseling for those 5 groups. How does school counseling benefit kids, teachers, administrators, parents, and the local economy? And we've also given you slides that you can type into, or you can use flip chart paper. If you're not going to use these slides, just delete them. So student benefits, teacher benefits, administrator benefits, parent, and economic benefits. So then you're saying, thanks, and just as a reminder, we're going to be taking all this input, and we will be creating the first part of our portfolio, which is our benefit statement. And thank you, and reminding people when your next meeting is, and then that's it. So, okay, I'm going to go back real quickly. I know we're kind of running out of time, and I have several things I want to touch on. So that's the handouts. These are the tools. So prep for meeting 1. At the beginning of each section, this document will always be the same. Prep for meeting 1, prep for meeting 2. And I want to show you what's in here because we've really tried to give you some good tips. So when you're preparing for the meeting, and why didn't that load? Or did it load? Yep, prep for meeting 1. So on prep for meeting 1, it's just kind of things to help you think through getting ready for the meeting. Did you set the date for the meeting? Have you brainstormed council members? Have you called the council members? Have you set the dates for the meetings for the whole year? Did you determine where you're going to meet? Did you send an introductory letter to the council members? Have you prepared the agenda? Have you prepared the roster? Did you print your handouts? Did you prepare posters? Or if you're using posters, did you create name tags? And this one's really important. Did you call the advisory council meetings the day before the first meeting? If you are talking to people on the phone and you're saying, Susie, I just want to remind you about tomorrow's meeting. Are you going to be there? Susie says yes. Then something comes up the next day. She's remembering that she talked to you personally on the phone and she told you personally that she was going to be there, and she's much more likely to show up. So we think that when people tell us, and when we talk to you guys next month, and the schools that say, oh, we had a fantastic turnout, I'd be willing to bet that they did this step. So, okay, so that's the prep. There's always like things to think about as you're getting ready for the meeting. This is another really good document. Whoever is facilitating your meeting should absolutely read this. So this is really helps you kind of look at, let me see if I can get this to be a little bigger here. Well, let me just run through it this size. So we give you the objectives for the meeting. It's nice to know before you start facilitating the meeting, what the objective is going to be. Let me see if I can make this just a little bigger. There we go. So we're giving you the objectives. We're giving you again the prep for the meeting, the handouts, the posters. We're just reminding you what you have. And then I always like to know, when I facilitate a meeting, what's going to be the products of this meeting? When I come out of this meeting, what am I going to have? So in this case, you're going to have 2 posters, one with the group norms brainstorm and one with the benefits brainstorm. So, okay. Then what we do in this next part is we just, after each section in the agenda, we give you suggestions. Prepare the agenda by doing this. At the meeting, when people arrive, do this. And again, having done this work for 20 years and worked with, hundreds and hundreds of schools, people, when schools do things that works well, we always ask them what made it work well. So we're giving you tips based on, 400 plus steering teams that have done this work. So then tips, and this is just, things that we think it would help you to know. The average person covers a PowerPoint slide at the rate of 1 every 30 seconds. So the slides, we're kind of talking about what the purpose of slides are, and also to kind of help you with your pacing. Some slides you'll spend a minute on, other slides you'll spend 10 seconds on, but on an average you should be hitting, them at about every 30 seconds. So, for many of your council members, this will be the first time that they've had an opportunity to discuss their thoughts, and it's really, really hard at this first meeting to stay on task, because it's the first time anybody's wanted to know, for many of them, what do you think about school? And you're going to really have to corral them back on at this first meeting. So kind of be thinking about that and being aware of that. So all through this we give you tips. We also give you suggestions if there's parts that are where we think that one word on a slide should be emphasized to really focus everybody's attention on this one concept. We might say that. If you get resistance somewhere, if it's typical that at one point people are going to be resistant, You know, who might be resistant, what are they afraid of losing, and how can you work through or around that. So there's just all kinds of really good tips in this document. And so every month, the second document in the tools section will always be the tips. Then we've given you a couple posters. You know, when they print, they're 8.5 by 11, but you can take them to Kinko's or whatever and blow them up. And then we usually give you a sample of what the product will look like after you've taken everybody's thoughts and put it into the product. So, and then finally, the tasks following the meeting. This gives you just a quick little update about what to do after the meeting. Enter the benefit statement online, enter the minutes online, print and send the minutes to the advisory council members, and then sometimes there's prep for the next meeting. So, and in this case, there is prep for the next meeting. Make sure you read this. We need you to have a video for the second meeting. You can borrow one from us, or you can download a version of it. It's in 2 parts. So this is a VHS, and then this would be online. So we just want to make sure that you've thought about things ahead of time if it's going to be something that you need to be working on ahead of time. Okay, so that is the manual. In the future, I will not walk through the manual with you. I will always walk through the presentation, but we will not open up each document. I just did that this time because this is the first meeting that you facilitated. Okay, very quickly, I'm going to go to the Process tab, and let's look at the tasks for this month. So we are watching the webcast, which you're doing right now. We are conducting the Advisory Council meeting. We are entering the benefit statement. So if in the Tools column, I'd always open up whatever's here. In this case, it's the sample benefit statement, so you can kind of see what it's like. When I'm entering the benefits, it's pretty easy. There's just text boxes, and you're putting your benefits in. Okay, go back. And then entering the meeting minutes, if I click on that, you would put the meeting date. The minutes are written by whoever's writing them, and then enter the minutes from the meeting. Okay, let me go back. And then finally, very, very important, before you send us anything of your work to look at, please make sure that you've reviewed the rubric items. And that's the last thing I want to talk about today is how to submit and the different rubric items. Okay, so we are talking about submissions. So when you turn your benefit statement into us in the next 4 weeks for us to look at, Debbie will be looking at it, and there's a rubric, and she's got to be able to point to a part in your statement where she can say, yes, they did this. So in this case, she'll be looking for, did they describe the benefits for students, the benefits for teachers, administrators, parents, workforce? When she can find those, she checks them off, and then if she finds all 5 of those things, then she's going to say that your benefit statement meets criteria. In the next one, on your advisory council agenda, the advisory council agenda is present. Actually, this says 5, but you're only submitting 1 because we're going to do these one at a time. And actually, I'm just going to go ahead and edit this right now. So we're not doing all 5 of them. We're just doing 1. So the advisory council agenda is present. Okay. So that's the only thing she's looking at. Now, on the minutes, when you turn them in, there are 4 things we're looking for. One is that the minutes are present. You know what? I think I misspoke, didn't I? Yeah, I did. I think I said minutes, and this is the agenda. And what I had on here originally is true. You are going to submit all 6 of the agendas all at once at the end of the year. So, but just know that you're going to be asked to do that, so do have a print agenda. Okay, now on the minutes we are going to be turning in one at a time. And we want it, so Debbie's going to check to make sure that you've completed your minutes. We want the minutes to contain the names of those present and the group that they represent, the perspective that's at the table. The minutes will be public, so we want to, whatever the perspective is that the person has said out loud at the meeting, at the opening of the meeting, that's the group that they represent. That's what you want to list. So the minutes present summaries of activities and discussions, and then the next one is really important. The minutes contain references to specific people who contributed ideas. So the minutes, in the body of the minutes, it'll say things like, Jane Doe added that, blah, 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 or John pointed out that, blah, blah, blah. So that's very, very important. The reason we do that is because that is your way of saying to everybody, I was listening, I heard you, and I thought what you said was so important, it even ended up in the minutes. That is a great way to get people to come back to your second meeting. Nobody wants to go to a meeting and be talked at, but if they can go to a meeting and know that they are heard and their ideas are showing up in your minutes, they're influencing the whole program design, they will be back to the second meeting. So really, really important that you do that. This is a great tool. Okay, so now submitting your work for review. Let me show you how that's going to happen. So let's see. Debbie will send you a link that is specific to your school. And that link is going to open up a document that looks something like this. So when you're ready, say, to send your advisory council roster, that's what you worked on last month, and you should be ready to submit that right now. So the instructions are here. You're going to send Debbie an email that says, hey Debbie, I'm from sample school, and I'm ready for you to review, and then please use the exact submission name so she knows exactly what you're trying to do. So you're saying, I'm ready for you to review my RSC uses or my steering team roster. So you're sending her an email. Then you're going to monitor this page. So Debbie will give each of you a unique link for your school's review page. And so you'll monitor this page, and within 48 hours, there should be something that appears in the status bar. So Debbie, hopefully, is going to type in needs criteria, which means all the rubric items were fine. But she may also say needs revision. And if she says that, make sure that you read over here in the comments. And she'll say something like the rubric requires 2 members and you only have 1. Please recruit another steering team member. So we'll always tell you what to do over here. If it says needs revision, then you'll do whatever it says. After you're finished doing that, send Debbie another email saying you want her to review it again, and then she'll come in here, and if everything's fine the second time, she'll type in meets criteria and take the comment out. So you'll need to be monitoring this. And what we're thinking will happen is just as you go through your work, it'll keep saying meets criteria, meets criteria. Right now you should be able to do meets criteria all the way down to here. So now that also helps us know that if you start to get behind, we'll see this fall off. And then we'll start to initiate our friendly reminders, and Debbie may be calling to say, gosh, you haven't submitted anything for over a month, and are you okay? Is there anything you need our help with? Are you stuck somewhere? Is everything working okay? So we will initiate helpful reminders if we are starting to see that you're slacking with your work. And I totally understand that school counselors are busy. I was a school counselor for years. I get that. It's just from our perspective, we know that if you get 2 months behind, it's really hard to get caught up. And when schools get that far behind and they try to get caught up, it really impacts the quality of their work. So we're going to kind of keep nudging you and making sure that that the work that we're getting high quality work that you're doing throughout the year. So, okay, I think that's it. The very last thing, the very last thing is just to make sure that you've written down Debbie's phone number and her email address. And finally, to get hooked up with Debbie and to get the link for your school's review page, we need you to call Debbie on the phone. It'll be like a 5-minute conversation. It will happen, we'd love it to happen today or tomorrow. And just to introduce yourself, Debbie's going to ask you who the contact person is at your school for RSC and then what their phone number is and their email address. So she can get that in her database and make a connection with you. And you might tell her a little bit about the demographics of your school or what the biggest challenge of being a school counselor is or what you love about being a school counselor or anything that's unique in your community. Just kind of give her a heads up. This is the beginning of her getting to know you. So if you'll just give her a call and take 5 minutes to just kind of give her a little heads up on you and how many counselors you have and just anything that you think it would be helpful for Debbie to know as she's starting to review your work. So, okay, I think that is it. And I apologize. I know we've gone over more than I like to. We try to just end right on time, but we had a lot to cover today with this being your first meeting. Okay, Debbie, anything to add that maybe I confused people on or forgot?
Nope, I think it all sounds perfect.
Okay, very good.
Yep, I look forward to working with everyone.
Sounds good. Okay, thank you, everybody. We'll end the webinar and just really appreciate everybody's help. And don't forget that as a school counselor, you make a difference in the lives of young people. We'll see you next month. I can't wait to hear about your first advisory council meeting.